Okay, before this video starts, full disclosure, part 1 sucks. The voiceover is terrible. I am aware. Don't worry, it gets better after we get to part 2. Anyways, enjoy. This is just a mix of these 3 videos. Enjoy. This is 3x3x3 modded Minecraft. The goal of the mod pack is to break out of the bedrock confines you find yourself in. Now, how do you go about getting a bedrock pickaxe when you have absolutely nothing and hardly any room? It's simple. You punch a wall. No, that wasn't a joke. By punching walls of the compact machine, you will always scavenge the wall. And scavenging is just when you left-click it, whether that's holding a pickaxe or just with your bare hand. See, when you punch it, it has a 77.7% chance to give you dirt dust, and the remaining 22.3% to give you gravel dust. However, if you've ever tried punching a wall, you know it hurts, and that's simulating this by lowering your health. For now, we don't really need any gravel, however, we do need dirt. See, you can scavenge dirt, which will eventually make it tilled, for a chance of getting a bonsai sapling. Of course, just like all Minecraft players, I am woodist, and will only be using oak instead of even entertaining the idea of using any other wood. Getting a wooden pickaxe allowed me to scavenge without pain, and gave me access to stone. Stone gave me iron, copper, tin, lead, and nickel to use. You may think an iron pickaxe would give you diamond, but of course it doesn't. See, in order to get diamonds, we need 9 diamond nuggets inside a high-impact compactor. To get diamond nuggets, you either use the same compactor with HOP graphite ingots, or you blow them up. That all will not be needed yet for quite some time. The small compactor is what is next to get, though it is kind of expensive at the moment, as it costs 4 machine casings to craft the needed blocks. Fortunately, you can craft 2 at a time, so it will only cost 8 modularium ingots total. The recipe for 1 ingot costs 4 iron dust, 4 uranium dust, and 1 redstone dust. Keep in mind at this point we can now make a constantan pickaxe, which costs only copper and nickel, to easily guarantee iron from every scavenge. See, uranium has a 27% drop chance, while redstone has a 41%, so redstone will not be the issue here, especially considering the fact you need a quarter of the amount of redstone compared to uranium. Now, in order to expand my area from a 3x3x3 room to a 5x5x5 room, I need to craft 4 tiny compact machines, each requiring 4 compact machine walls. How you get each machine wall requires the previously mentioned small compactor, as well as 4 modularium ingots per machine wall. I need 16 of these. Well, actually 20. I need 16 in order to make the 4 tiny compact machines, and then I need another 4 to actually craft the small compact machine. So putting that into consideration, I need 20 compact machine walls, and each one requires 4 modularium ingots. That's 80 modularium ingots needed, total. Now, recall the cost of each ingot. 4 iron, 4 uranium, and 1 redstone. From here on out, I won't actually mention the redstone cost because of how much redstone I'll actually get. The main focus will reside in the uranium and the iron cost. 80 ingots costs 320, or 5 stacks, of both uranium and iron. Remember, getting iron is easy. All you need is a bit of copper and nickel to get a pickaxe that drops only iron. Easy. Uranium drops from an iron pickaxe and a tough alloy pickaxe, which I actually found out you cannot get the tough alloy pickaxe until you reach the 7x7x7 room. So, back to the iron pickaxe I went, still holding the small 27% drop chance to get uranium. I had 2 options, either manually grind out all the resources or set up auto-clickers. See, auto-clickers are by far one of the best blocks that will be obtained in the entire playthrough, automatically left or right-clicking with whatever tool you desire, which when paired with pickaxes can make the process of getting all the modularium you could ever need at least a little easier at this point. Anyways, back to the small compactor. We have already established we need 80 modularium total. However, due to the very limited amount of space I had, I decided it was actually best at this point to make 2 other tiny compact machines, providing me with the same amount of space 3 times, as opposed to working singularly to just 1 small machine. I then decided one to be a wood collector, at least until I figured out how garden enclosures work. Once I finally decided to work specifically towards the small compact machine, that is exactly what I did. Firstly, I had to get steel. See, in this game you can get steel in a few ways, however right now we will be focusing on the explosive method. As I said before, bombs will be used whenever possible for both euphoria and progress advancement. In this mod pack, when you blow up blocks of iron, there's a 75% chance per block that it will drop 6 steel grit, which then can be smelted into the desired steel ingot. With this steel, I will be able to make the metal press, which is actually needed to get the tiny machine pieces, because the recipe for a small compact machine isn't actually 4 tiny compact machines, it's 4 tiny compact machine pieces. In order to get these pieces, you simply throw the compact machines into the metal press, drain all your power, and wait a few seconds, and then boom, a tiny compact machine piece is now created. Now, this is just an example of what will happen. I still need to actually get the metal press. My idea for getting the steel was that I was going to blow up as many iron blocks as possible that can be fit into a 3x3x3 room, which of course is 24. Out of the 27 total blocks, I need 2 to stand in as the player and 1 for the TNT, which leaves 24 left. This many iron blocks should easily provide me with enough steel to last me for quite some time. Crafting the steel scaffolding was easy, costing only steel ingots and steel rods. The pistons recipe remains the same as in vanilla, and the 2 engineering blocks needed, the heavy engineering block and the redstone engineering block, were also both very easy to craft, which left me with by far one of the most tedious things to obtain at this point: leather. To make the metal press you need 2 conveyor belts, which isn't usually that much of an issue because you craft 8 at a time and getting the iron and redstone is easy enough. But how exactly do you go about getting leather? To craft leather, it costs 3 pressed off. What even is pressed off? Well, it's simple. When you throw a piece of paper into sewage, it makes pressed off. Now we can finally make a metal press. A simple yet daunting task when first starting out if you don't know what you're doing. However, a mere small compactor and a metal press will not be the extent of the machines required in this playthrough. The next step is to actually get those 80 modularium. Well, it's actually 92 because I forgot to mention a quality of life detail. Each compact machine, regardless of size, requires a machine casing on the inside, and as stated previously, those require 4 modularium per 2 casing. I need 5 of those, 4 to be used for the tiny machines, and the final one for the small machine. So to get the needed resources, I set up 2 auto-clickers, automatically using iron pickaxes, clicking at a rate of once every 50 ticks. Minecraft runs at a default of 20 ticks a second, by the way. With this setup and a bit of waiting, I was able to get enough resources to make the needed modularium. After that, it was simply a matter of smelting it in the redstone smelter. The redstone smelter is revolutionary for gameplay. It increases the speed depending on the amount of RF, or power, you provide it, making it smelt at a significantly faster rate than any normal furnace ever could. And it has the added bonus of costing power as opposed to any kind of fuel. Once smelted, it is then painfully thrown into the small compactor, to which I had to sit there for a long time waiting for it to slowly create compact machine walls. At long last, I can finally use the metal press I made so long ago, even though it was actually like 2 hours prior, which I will discover is not a long time for this mod pack. Throwing those tiny machine pieces into the press was incredibly relieving, as I knew at long last I had finally gotten somewhere. Finally, I was able to take those 4 tiny compact machine pieces and throw them into a crafting grid, and to finally make a small compact machine, and be able to escape from this 3x3x3 hell, and go into the wonderful world of 5x5x5 room. This is 3x3x3 modded Minecraft. In the last episode, I ventured from the confined room of a 3x3x3 box to the much more open space of this 5x5x5 box. The goal remains the same, the creation of a bedrock pickaxe. Now, the first thing I'm going to do instead of progression is actually solve all of my power problems. My plan was that I was going to fill a 3x3x3 room with as many thermoelectric generators as possible. See, when unlocking a thermoelectric generator for the first time, the game kindly notifies you that the maximum number of generators you can actually fit in a tiny compact machine is 12. I currently have a single generator, so I need to get 11 more, which will end up costing me 33 steel ingots, 55 constantan ingots, as well as 11 copper coil blocks. Constantan is created by mixing copper and nickel, both resources I have a massive amount of, so that's no issue. As for steel, I still have quite a bunch left over from when I was getting resources for the metal press. Now, it just comes down to the copper coil blocks. Each one costs 8 LV wire coils and an iron ingot. When crafting the wire coils, you need 4 copper wires to craft 4 wire coils, and each copper wire costs a copper ingot. So, doing the math, I need 11 copper coil blocks times 8 LV wire coils each block, which are at a 1-to-1 ratio for copper ingots, which means on top of the 33 steel and 55 constantan, I also need 88 copper ingots. Now you may be thinking, how exactly is one supposed to use the power from these generators if you're filling every single space? Now, that's actually simple. Allow me to introduce to you tunnels. Remember that metal press we have shunned into the corner? See, it actually has another purpose other than just for the making of pressed tiny compact machines. It also can be used to make tunnels. Simply by putting a light engineering block into the press, it will turn into a tunnel, which then can be used to move power from one compact machine into another. By having the tiny compact machine right next to a power duct, I am then able to place down a tunnel inside the compact machine, which will suck out the power from the thermoelectric generators and bring them into the power duct outside of the compact machine. Now that I have power resolved, I can instead focus on the actually not so tedious task of making a normal compact machine. See, all you do is just mimic the steps to make a small compact machine. You gather a whopping 5 stacks of modularium ingots to then make into 16 tiny compact machines. Then you press them into machine pieces to then turn into 4 small compact machines. Now, I have enough machines to get to the next stage, however, just like with making the small compactor, another new machine is needed to make the small compactors into their own small compactor pieces. This requires the needing of crafting the crusher. The crusher is a massive machine, taking up most of the available space at this time, as it is 5 blocks long, 3 blocks wide, and 3 blocks tall. To actually make the crusher costs 8 steel fences, 9 hoppers, though I'll actually be making 10, a redstone engineering block, 10 steel scaffolding, and 10 light engineering blocks. Almost all of these resources have been seen before, though not to this extent. I still had some steel scaffolding extra from when I made the metal press, so using that plus the extra sum that I had to make gave me more than enough. 8 steel fences is easy enough to craft, same with the redstone engineering block. Because I decided to get 9 stacks of iron when first getting the steel during my goal of getting the small compact machine, I still had enough iron to make the 10 hoppers. And 10 engineering blocks is not relatively expensive. Now, why did I want 10 hoppers as opposed to the 9 needed? See, the way the crusher works is by throwing items into the top of the machine. However, later on that will mean I'll have to crush a stack of small compact machines, and that is going to take quite some time. So, the solution is to put a hopper at the top, as it will constantly feed items into the crusher without the risk of them despawning. Using a vacuumulator, I will also be able to automatically pick up every single drop the crusher will spit out. So, taking those 4 small compact machines and throwing them into a crusher will turn them into small compact pieces. Taking them, adding machine casing, as well as 4 compact machine walls, and I create the normal compact machine, wielding a massive 7x7x7 room for me to work in. Again, instead of furthering my progress, I am going to do something completely different. If you recall from the first part, I made the comment that uranium can drop from either iron or tough alloy pickaxes. Well, it is finally time for me to get a tough alloy pickaxe. To start things off, now that I have a 7x7x7 room, I can actually grow full-size trees in, which, aside from providing me with a much nicer and quicker access to wood, it also gives me logs, as opposed to the bonsai oak cuttings I've been using until now. Fundamentally, they are the same, both providing me with planks. However, what logs can do that cuttings can't is be burned into charcoal. First things first, I have to make 2 blocks, a manufactory and an alloy furnace. By smelting logs into charcoal and then throwing them into the manufactory, twice, I am able to get graphite dust, which allows me to combine with lead into basic plating. Now, basic plating is needed to make the alloy furnace. Now that I've gotten the blocks needed, I need the actual resources. See, by using a steel pickaxe, it can drop lithium and boron. Combining boron and steel inside the alloy furnace gives me 2 ferroboron alloys. Putting a ferroboron alloy and a piece of lithium gives me 2 tough alloys, effectively giving me a way to now be able to farm both iron and uranium every single click, drastically improving my modularium production. See, as it stands, I currently only have chests. I plan on utilizing the ME system. Now, before we begin, I need to get 4 diamond nuggets to make the ME system. Now, to get diamond nuggets requires blowing up HOP graphite ingots at a 20% success rate. Yes, we're bringing back bombs. HOP ingots are made from smelting HOP dust, which is obtained through the industrial squeezer. This machine takes in 8 pieces of coke dust and turns it into an HOP dust. Getting coke dust is from throwing a piece of coal coke into a crusher. Thankfully, we already have the crusher, so now instead it's onto the coal coke. You can get coal coke from either putting in charcoal or coal into a coke oven. I have no possible way of getting coal easily at this point, however I can actually make it, it just isn't justified. See, by turning charcoal into graphite dust and then using a pressurizer, it turns the graphite dust into coal. Alternatively, I could skip all that process instead and just use charcoal. So recap. I need 4 diamond nuggets at a 20% success rate, so I need in theory at least 20 HOP graphite ingots, which costs 8 charcoal. I'm not going to count the middle steps. Per single HOP ingot. I decided to get more than I needed so I wouldn't have to get more TNT later, so I went with getting 22 HOP ingots. 22 ingots, costing 8 charcoal apiece, comes out to needing almost 3 stacks of charcoal. Getting all this took a while, especially considering it came down to waiting for it to turn into coal coke. After blowing up my hard-earned ingots to get exactly enough diamond nuggets, I now have the needed 4. Let's start with the controller, costing 4 iron, 3 silicone, a machine casing, and an advanced processor. Silicone is obtained by smelting quartz, which can be obtained using the steel pickaxe. A machine casing is actually really easy as well, costing a block of stone, as well as 8 quartz-enriched iron, which, as the name suggests, is made out of iron and quartz. What of the advanced processor? All it is just a smelted raw advanced processor. To make that costs a diamond nugget from earlier, a redstone, a silicone, and a processor binding. A processor binding is made with 2 string and a porcelain clay, which can be made from combining clay and bone meal. Next up was the disk drive, the thing that actually holds my storage disks, costing the already explained quartz-enriched iron, machine casing, an advanced processor, and it finally also costs a chest. Following the disk drive is the crafting grid, the interface to access all of my storage and be able to craft directly from it, requiring an advanced processor, a crafting table, and a grid. To make a grid, it costs 2 improved processors, a construction core, a destruction core, 3 glass, and another machine casing. Making the improved processor costs silicone, redstone, processor binding, and a piece of gold. Making the improved processor costs silicone, redstone, a processor binding, and a piece of gold. The destruction core is made from a basic processor and a piece of quartz. Making the basic processor is the same as the improved, just using iron instead of gold. And lastly is the construction core. Same as the destruction, it costs the basic processor, and this time it combines with the last remaining diamond nugget. Time for the really annoying part, the getting of drives. I decided to get 16K storage disks. Now you can fit 8 disks inside 1 disk drive, so I was going with 8 16K storage disks. Every tier of storage parts costs 3 of its predecessor, so it ended up being 8 times 3 times 3, or 72. That's how many 1K storage parts I needed to make. Each storage part costs 3 glass, 4 silicone, a quartz-enriched iron, and a redstone. To upgrade it further, of course, costs 3 1K storage parts, 4 basic processors, a QEI, and a redstone. Furthering that costs 3 4K storage parts, 4 improved processors, a QEI, and a redstone. Then to actually make them into disk drives costs an additional 2 glass, 3 redstone, and 3 QEI per disk. Now that was a lot of random numbers, so let me simplify to make more sense. I needed 4 total diamond nuggets. I needed 128 total quartz-enriched iron. I needed 416 silicone, 232 glass, 416 clay and bone meal, and 832 string. After finally collecting all of that, I made the biggest storage system that was justified at this time. Of course, I could have gone to 64K storage drives, however that'd be a massive waste of time, as it costs at least 3 times what the 16K storage drives cost. All of this was done so that I can make the large compact machine easier. After farming 20 stacks of compact machine walls, I got the 4 needed normal compact machines. To actually make them into compact pieces is shockingly simple. You melt them inside of a melter, and then put the bucket of compact fluid in an ingot former, and then boom! You now have a normal machine piece. It is that simple. And with that, I now have access to the 3rd largest compact machine in the game. I still need to get to the maximum before I can even begin making the machine to get bedrock, let alone the bedrock pickaxe. This is the last part to my compact claustrophobia experience, as today I will be finally escaping. Now that I have access to the 9x9x9 room, I can utilize the miniaturization projectors. By placing them down, you are able to create various items with it, and it is how we will be getting the final compact machine. Getting these projectors is actually incredibly easy, costing 2 diamond nuggets, 2 redstone torches, a compact machine wall, and a personal shrinking device. Before I can actually use the miniaturization projectors to their full extent, I first need to build a fully functional nuclear fusion reactor. See, later on I will need neutron fluid, so I decided to work towards that now as opposed to later. To build the fusion reactor requires 2 stacks of fusion electromagnets and a fusion core. Crafting the fusion core costs 4 elite plating, 2 chemical reactors, 2 magnesium diboride solenoids, and a machine chassis. To make elite plating costs 4 boron ingots, 4 crystal binders, and a DU plating. Making the DU plating costs uranium-238, sulfur, and the previously explained advanced plating. Uranium-238 is obtained by putting uranium into an isotope separator at a 1-to-1 ratio. Getting boron ingots is simple, all you do is smelt the boron. And lastly is crystal binders. Crystal binders cost a crushed rhodochrosite, calcium sulfate, crushed obsidian, and magnesium dust. Magnesium you get alongside boron and lithium using the steel pickaxe. Calcium sulfate is obtained by crystallizing calcium sulfate solution, which you get by mixing fluorite water and sulfuric acid. Fluorite water is obtained by mixing fluorite and water. Fluorite is obtained by crushing diorite in a rock crusher. Now, sulfuric acid isn't quite as simple. It requires water and sulfur trioxide, which you get by mixing sulfur dioxide and oxygen. Oxygen you get by separating it in an electrolyzer from water. Getting sulfur dioxide is obtained by mixing sulfur with oxygen. All those steps are needed to make one crystal binder. I need 16 of these! Keep in mind, this is only for the fusion core. After getting the fusion core, I moved on to getting the 2 stacks of fusion electromagnets, each one costing 4 copper solenoids, which fortunately you can craft 2 at a time, and 4 advanced plating. Since I need 2 stacks, that ends up being 8 stacks of copper solenoids and 8 stacks of advanced plating, which ends up being 16 stacks of copper, 8 stacks of iron, 32 stacks of redstone, 32 stacks of tough alloys, 8 stacks of lead, and 8 stacks of graphite dust. So quite a lot of resource gathering was needed. It was at this point I found out how to get cryothium. See, by mixing liquid experience and snowballs, it makes 1 blizz powder, and 2 blizz powder makes 2 cryothium dust. Getting snowballs is easy. Simply just add water to a glacial precipitator and you get snowballs. Getting liquid experience is actually a lot easier than you'd think. If you look at my hotbar, you can see I have experience levels. But how did I manage to get them if I haven't killed anything ever? A little known feature in Minecraft is that every time you get an achievement, you gain a little bit of experience. At no point does it ever state that it's giving you experience, but as you can see here, when I give myself every achievement, it gives me quite a few levels. Then, using the Tome of Knowledge to actually collect that experience and using a fluid extractor on it, I now have liquid experience. And again, mashing that with snowballs gives me blizz powder, which is needed to get cryothium. See, I had to get cryothium because it was at this point I realized I couldn't actually power my fusion reactor. You remember those 2 stacks of fusion electromagnets? Well, they all require a bunch of power, 200 RF a tick, to stay active. And I currently do not have a power source that's strong enough for that. Using cryothium, I can make liquid cryothium coolers, which is the most efficient cooler in the game. Then, by optimizing the placement of every single cell in my fission reactor, as well as placing coolers in the correct places, I'm able to use a higher quality fuel, which increases my power generation by a substantial amount, without a complete overhaul of my power system, which is enough power to power the fusion reactor. With the 2 stacks of fusion electromagnets, each one of them requires at least 200 RF a tick to stay powered. Since I went through the effort of upgrading my fission reactor, I am able to generate enough power to keep this thing powered. Then, by mixing lithium-6 and boron-11, I'm able to make neutron fluid, saving this neutron fluid for later uses. Remember that miniaturization projector I mentioned earlier? That is used to get the maximum compact machine. Since I can't get the projector to fit in a large enough space to give me the 5x5x5 area to make something, I am instead stuck with the 3x3x3. Until I get the maximum compact machine, as that is the minimum size required in order to get the 5x5x5 field. Getting a maximum compact machine costs 6 glitched giant machines, and each glitched giant machine is obtained by throwing a stack of poop onto a glitched machine. Getting each giant machine costs 6 giant large machines, which only cost 32 poop to be thrown onto those, so grinding out all 36 total large machines, duplicating poop using pulped bioblend, I now had enough glitched large machines to continue. Oh, and pulped bioblend costs a sawdust and 3 pulped biomass, which are both obtained by throwing various items into the sawmill. Now, you might have seen a crucial detail I am yet to specify. Every time you make a compact machine in a miniaturization field, it costs 1 ender pearl, or an unfamiliar item as the game calls it, which to get those, you use the same miniaturization field, using 26 obsidian, a block of redstone, and a redstone dust. How in the world am I going to get that many ender pearls? Well, simply put, I just need 1. Now that I'm at this point, I can now make the crucible, which, when there's a heating element underneath it, it will automatically turn cobblestone into lava. Then it just came down to setting up a contraption to where it is constantly funneling into a barrel with water constantly on top and a hopper beneath. As for cobblestone, I've had a cobblestone generator making all my cobblestone since ever. Once this contraption was made, I AFK'd for a bit, came back with a chest full of obsidian. As for the redstone, I still had a bunch from before. With that, I was able to make a bunch of ender pearls, make giant machines, glitch the giant machines, and make the massive compact machine, the largest compact machine available, and the one that is able to hold the high impact compactor. To make the high impact compactor, it costs a machine controller, 56 superconducting electromagnets, 20 compact machine walls, 108 fission reactor casing, 13 cryostabilized flux ducts, 8 super laminar fluid ducts, 8 tritium lamps, an ultimate energy input hatch, a vacuum fluid input hatch, 8 impulse item ducts, a tiny item input, a tiny item output, and a maximum compact machine. A massive list I am aware of, however a lot of these materials have been seen before or aren't overly difficult to craft. Everything was going well crafting all these items, all the way until I reached the ultimate energy input hatch. See, it costs slime balls, which you get from uncrafting a slime block. To get a slime block requires putting a mushroom, which is obtainable through the miniaturization field, into a bucket of milk. How in the confined world am I going to get a bucket of milk, you may be wondering? No, creatures aren't able to spawn, well, normally. See, everyone knows you can go into creative mode whenever and use spawn eggs to spawn whatever you want. What if I told you there was a way to get them in here? To get the cow egg, you use the miniaturization field. That's right, it's back again. To actually make it, it costs a bunch of dyed wool, which is super easy to obtain. However, it costs throwing an egg to get it started. An egg. The thing that chickens drop. So, before we can get a cow, we need to get a chicken, which fortunately is also just a bunch of wool, but this time an ender pearl thrown into the mix. Making the egg before the chicken, placing a chicken, waiting for it to lay an egg, I was then able to get a cow spawn egg, milk the cow, and get myself a slime block. With everything now obtained to get the high impact compactor up and running, I got to building. Once made and powered, the first thing I did was throw a bunch of HOP ingots in to make a bunch of diamond nuggets. Then I used those diamond nuggets to get my first ever diamonds, and with them my first ever diamond pickaxe. See, the diamond pickaxe is the key to getting out of here. It has a 1.04% chance to get more diamond nuggets, which effectively gives you infinite diamond pickaxes. However, it has a much more important 0.069% chance to drop a bedrock chunk, which for anyone wondering, Google says is a 55,517 divided by 800,000 chance. I need 27 bedrock chunks, which when you do the theoretical math of it being around a 1 in 1450 chance, it's almost one diamond pickaxe per bedrock chunk. Fortunately, you can get coal chunks from diamond pickaxes, so using the insane amount of coal from every single pickaxe, I was able to make more pickaxes, and with that, finally be able to get all my bedrock chunks. Throwing that into the high impact compactor gave me my needed bedrock. Using diamonds instead of sticks, I made my first and only ever bedrock pickaxe. I can finally leave this compact machine and mine out. The bedrock that once confined me is now able to be broken, and with this, I'm now free, able to walk through the village that was next to me this entire time, and mine my first ever log from a natural tree. And with that, my adventure through compact claustrophobia comes to a close. Hello everyone, so this is the ending to, compact claustrophobia, all 3 parts in one. So, I know what you're thinking. If you watched this whole thing, and you've actually watched any of my videos, any of the other compact claustrophobia videos, I've been doing this is the 4th time now that I've done this. And yeah, I'm gonna be playing Minecraft at small little intervals of time. It's gonna be good. I'm gonna have a grand old time. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. The thing that I'm gonna do with each video, even if it's like groups of 3 videos like this one is, I'm just gonna cut out each of the end little credit thing and then just have its own unique one every single time. And then I think once I finally beat the game in like 15 million years, I'm going to just mix them all together into one however long video, and that video is gonna make no sense whatsoever, and it's gonna be amazing, and it's gonna be so neat that there's gonna be people that have been here since the start and have watched almost every single one of these, and then there's gonna be people who see that video and they're like, what is this guy on about? He's just insane, he's crazy, this guy is insane and crazy. Definitely not repeating myself. So yeah, that'll be neat. Like, you just have, it's weird to think of that, because like that could be realistically in years when that gets finally made. Just when I finally beat Minecraft. Let me not blow myself up. So, I don't know, I was just thinking, like, what exactly am I going to do with these once I'm done recording all of them? And, yeah, I kind of just figured, might as well just post it. That's a lot of iron. Might as well just post them all as one big video. I mean, like why not? I mean, I got all the footage anyways. What else am I going to do with it? And I am not stuck in here. Alright, well, I think there's another one there. You know what? I'm going to intentionally log off facing this direction for when I finally see it next. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I know it's a mix of all three of my previous videos. I kind of just did that so that it's all one collective video. As per Compact Claustrophobia, I'm never returning to this mod pack ever again. My god, it's painful. I'm gonna return to Minecraft though. I got an idea. I might play some Sky Factory. I know that game from like 2017. I know that one. I want to be a little bit nostalgic. I really enjoyed that mod pack, and so you know I might just do a little bit of a playthrough of it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if I haven't said that. I honestly can't remember. And bye bye.